Okay, the last part of this lesson on factoring is when we are given 4 terms and each term has a different degree. And this is going to be easy because you already know how to factor by grouping. So here we have a cubic and we can't combine any like terms. So we're just going to go straight into grouping where we group the first 2 and the last 2 terms. We factor out the GCF. Now we are going to write our first factor with the GCFs. And then the second binomial factor is that common binomial, that common factor, 6x minus 7. Here we have another cubic polynomial. There's no GCF, so we're going to go straight into grouping. We're going to factor out the GCF of each of these binomials. We're going to write one factor as x squared plus 8 in our second factor of our polynomial 5x plus 4. There is no GCF. We're going to group the first 2 and the last 2, factor out the GCF. Write the 2 GCFs as one factor. And then 5x plus 7 is the second binomial factor. Here we must factor out a 1, our GCFs. 3x squared plus 1 is one factor, and x minus 4 is our second factor. Okay, let's practice these. Please pause the video. And then when we return, we will work through these together. You're going to use any method that you see. Okay, number 1, first we ask, is there a GCF? So I notice that they both have a factor of x. So I'm left with x minus 8. That is it. X and x minus 8 are the 2 factors. And number 2, we're going to see, let's see if 105 is divisible by 3. It is. The leading coefficient is negative, so I'm going to factor out a negative 3. We have x squared plus 2x minus 35. Now this may be totally factored, but let's just see. Let's see if there are 2 numbers that multiply to give us negative 35 and add up to give us 2. So I know the factors of 35 would be 7 and 5. And if 5, if 5 were negative, that would give me the 2 and give me the negative 35. So yes, we're going to do this by grouping. So I'm going to bring this up here. Negative 3 is our GCF. I'm going to rewrite x squared. And then instead of 2x, I'm going to say plus 7x minus 5x minus 35. Now, guys, if there were no numbers that would satisfy this graphic organizer, then I would be totally done. We're going to group the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms. We're going to factor out the GCF. And I'm going to rewrite this. I have negative 3 is my GCF. We're going to write x minus 5 is one other factor. And the third factor is x plus 7. In this example, there's no GCF. This is not a perfect square trinomial. So I'm just going to simply factor. Let's use our graphic organizer. So A times C, and then the B value. So the factors of 9 are 3, 1 and 9, 3 and 3 and 1 and 9. So it's, excuse me, negative 9 and 1 will be the two numbers that we're going to use to split negative 8x. We're going to group. We're going to factor out. And we're going to rewrite x plus 1 times x minus 9. Here, this looks like it could be the difference of two squares. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 4 is 2. That gives me 2x. And if I double it, it does give me the 4x in the middle. So this is a perfect square trinomial set up. I'm going to take the root of, we just need one parentheses. I'm going to take the root of x squared. I'm going to take the sine of 4x. And I'm going to take the root of 4 quantity squared. So it would be x minus 2 and x minus 2, but we're simply going to write it as x minus 2 quantity squared. Okay, pause the video and then let's come back and work these. Number 5, I notice is a difference of two squares. So I'm going to set up and I'm going to take the square root of x squared and I'm going to factor 16. One must be positive and one must be negative. Number 6, there's no GCF. I have 4 terms. I'm simply going to go straight into grouping. I'm going to factor out the GCF. And the GCF here. And 2x squared plus 7 is one factor. And 4x minus 7 is another factor. Here we need to factor out the negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1. That gives us x squared minus 12x plus 20. So now my A is 1, my B is negative 12, and my C is 20. Whenever I use my graphic organizer, I have 20 and negative 12. Whoops. Let me write this up here. 20 and negative 12. The two numbers I want to use that multiply to give me 20 but add to give me negative 12 is going to be 10 and 2, and they're both going to be negative. So I have negative on the outside for my GCF. Then I have x squared minus 10x minus 2x plus 20. We're going to group. And then I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to factor out an x. I'm going to factor out a minus 2. I have negative for my GCF, and then I have x minus 2 and x minus 10. Here, we're going to, there's no GCF, so let's use our graphic organizer. A times C, and then I have 3. So negative 54. Let's think of the factors of 54. So we have 6 and 9, I think will work. So 6 and 9, and the 6 needs to be negative to give us a positive 3. So we're going to rewrite x squared minus 6x plus 9x minus 54. I want to make some space here. We're going to group the first two and the last two. We're going to factor out x into x minus 6 and then factor out a 9 into x minus 6. We have x plus 9 times x minus 6.